kudos to everyone involved, from the LHSAA doing a great job to marshal this forward, to the schools doing a great job to keep their kids safe as they prepare, the coaches, the parents, the administrators, the principals, and also to Jeff Landry for his stepping up as he did to help action to be taken place, and also to Governor Edwards for making the move that he made just yesterday. Joining us now to talk a little bit about that and about a possible initiative to enhance high school football in the area, a good friend of ours and a gentleman that, of course, is in the legal business with his law firm, and he's also well known for being a councilman at large in Jefferson Parish, having served in the Kenner Council prior to that. He is Dominick Impastato. Dominick, how are you?
Well, I'm good, guys, and it's sort of apropos. I apologize if there's background noise, but I'm leaving Northlake Christian High School from my son's baseball game, taking my daughter to a softball tournament in central Louisiana. So the topic couldn't be more appropriate for what I'm doing right now in my personal life. So,
well, that's a good point, because baseball has been going on all summer. You know, you mentioned softball, obviously. And there are some sports where there are lesser challenges. Clearly, football was always a bit of a concern because of the nature of the sport, but we've seen it played in other states on the high school level for a week or two now, and others starting. And also we've seen it on the college level for a couple of weeks with some degree of complications, with some infections, but the greater population okay in that regard. So with that, Dominick, you authored a resolution through the Jefferson Parish Council about offering up the opportunity for those that don't have stadiums to play to possibly come to Jefferson Parish to do so. Talk about that, if you will.
Yeah, well, it's to do two things. Number one, it's to make a statement for our own recreational facilities and our own recreational programs to say that if the LHSAA has decided that contact sports, football, soccer, et cetera, are okay to play with appropriate precautions, then we at our recreational level would like to follow the same path and incorporate the same activities, let those activities get back to work, get back to doing what they were doing. So that's the first step, is within our own recreation department, is making a statement that we're getting back to some level of normalcy there. The second part is saying that we'd like to open up our facilities to those schools and those families who would like a place to go undertake those activities and do those programs as well. And as it relates to the schools, as I said yesterday in a couple of different interviews, this isn't about, isn't about trying to tell another jurisdiction this is what they should or shouldn't do. What it's about is providing the opportunity, in particular for Jefferson Parish families, because the term regionalism gets thrown out sort of willy-nilly without really contemplating what it means. Well, regionalism means, in my mind, that every decision you make and every edict you give out, you contemplate how it will affect all of those around you. And with many of the schools, as you guys know, being, former Rummel Raiders yourselves like me, what we know is there are a number of schools in Orleans Parish where their predominant enrollment is Jefferson Parish residents. So telling them you can't do what the LHSAA has clearly stated and the state has said you can be doing now and should be doing, that hurts our residents just as much as any. And the second part of it is, if our schools are unable to play games or unable to compete against schools in other areas who have been prohibited from doing that activity, well, then we're not able to do the very activity that the state has said we should be doing. So it's a matter of trying to provide that opportunity, assuming one exists, and without any impingement upon the protocols that have been set forth, having the capacity regulations complied with to the fullest extent possible. So we're not talking about overcrowding facilities or anything like that. But what we're looking at is, being a former high school football player myself, we all know Friday night's the prime time. I think there's even a show about Friday night football, as I'm pretty sure I watch on Friday nights. And so Friday's the prime time, Saturday's second. And ordinarily, maybe many of the schools would say, well, I don't want to play on Sunday or I don't want to play on Wednesday. Under ordinary circumstances, that might be how they'd feel. But if the option is not play at all or play on one of those nights, something tells me a lot of these coaches and players would so welcome the opportunity to do that and to play those games and undertake those activities, that if we have an opportunity to provide that to them, I think we have an obligation to the community to provide it.
Ed?
All right, so were you surprised, Councilman Impastato, when the governor declared 25% capacity for games when the LHSAA had said 50? Were you surprised by that?
No, I mean, that doesn't surprise me based on, listen, I can tell you on Tuesday, as I think both of you guys know, our parish council had a conference with the governor related to the Jefferson Parish's request that we open up and move on to phase 3. And the governor made quite clear that he was very reticent and hesitant to move on to the next phase. So the thought that he would scale back, I can't say surprised me. And I mean no criticism by that. I just mean, you know, it didn't shock me that he was a little more reserved in that. That being said, I think in the current climate, the way we are, we're just so glad to see the opportunity to do certain things that if that's what we've got to do it, I guess we will. What's going to be interesting is the devil's always in the details with these things. How is that capacity defined? I mean, I can think back to a Rummel Jesuit game on a Saturday afternoon in 1995 that had 12,000 people there. You couldn't even stand in the parking lot. So are those areas included? Is it just the seats in the stadium? I mean, I think that'll be interesting to see how that's defined, and that could make a difference at the end of the day.
Are you I know we always have to stress safety, but, you know, kind of a bigger picture, what are you hearing from businesses in the parish about just the way things are going?
The common theme, almost universal theme that I'm hearing is it's time to move on. It's time to move to the next step. We've got to get back open. And I'm going to tell you what I'm hearing is we can't make it much longer. And what we're getting is an outcry from businesses saying our family legacies. I mean, we're talking mom and pop businesses that were started generations ago that are on the verge of bankruptcy through no fault of their own. And what I'm getting is an outcry from businesses saying, please do whatever it takes to move us on. And that's part of this too. We're talking high school sports. Let's think about this. The frost top that's on Clearview, right outside of Joe Yanni Stadium. How much hurt did this give them by not having Friday and Saturday night games? You know, we forget that education, I say we forget. Oftentimes people forget or don't pay as much attention to the economic impact that education has on our community. And so this is very relevant to the business community as much as any. The gas stations, the convenience stores, the fast food chains and all of those places, the apparel stores. I mean, all of them are trickled down from these events that are able to get put on.
You would have to make me think about a root beer float at 10:13 in the morning. So
yeah, well, I apologize.
Councilman Dominick Impastato with us, and Dominick, the cross-pollination of schools that play each other, and of course, there's one noticeable one in a district, in District 9 5A, where Archbishop Roll, our alma mater, along with Archbishop Shaw and John Curtis Christian, are all Jefferson Parish schools, but they're in a league with Brother Martin, Jesuit, Holy Cross, and St. Augustine, all Orleans Parish schools, and therein lies the rub that you mentioned previously. If 3 can and 4 can't, well, it not only affects the 4 that can, it has a tremendous impact on the 3 that can. So what you'd like to see is at least open up the opportunity for people to come play home games in Jefferson Parish. We know via checking with Carl Nini that Joe Yanni and Haas Memphis only have 6 dates available, but that would be 6 dates that could be filled. But what about the possibility of other facilities in Jefferson Parish that could house prep football games?
Well, let's talk about let's talk about the big one, the Shrine on Airline, okay? Right off the bat, Councilman Dino Bonanno, who represents District 2, when I talked to him about the resolution, I don't think I could get the words out of my mouth when he said, Dom, sounds like Zephyr Field ought to have something going on. And we know, as you both are well aware, 2 years' worth of football games were played at that facility with relative success. And I know there were issues that maybe made it not a perfect venue from the coaches and players' perspectives. But guess what? That sounds like an opportunity that's got a tremendous potential under the current climate. So that's one. In addition, we've got playgrounds, again, not perfect solutions, but that Jefferson playground being one. I mean, we've got different facilities that at a minimum could provide, whether it's a practice opportunity, whether it's just some games. I mean, practices, for example, at your high schools are typically done right after school, which is a time period where our traditional recreational playgrounds don't really have the activity going on until about 6 o'clock, let's say. So that, to me, I think those are some opportunities where it would seem to me we could make it work.
Two other facilities that come to mind would be Tony Porter Field at St. Martin's Episcopal and, of course, Mus Bertolino in Kenner, both of whom host high school games already.
Yeah, Mus Bertolino is a great option. I only didn't mention them just because they're not technically under the umbrella of the Jefferson Parish government. So, the city of Kenner would certainly have to comment on that. But I have the utmost confidence that they would love nothing more than to see Mus Bertolino get back to its, full utilization as it once was. But yeah, the fact of the matter is, and if there's a message that comes out of this COVID environment that we're living in over the course of the last 6 months, is innovation and creativity. And, opportunities that we might have otherwise discounted or not been so interested in before, all of a sudden become marketable and become quite persuasive under the current climate. And maybe thinking about things a little bit differently than what we're used to create opportunities, to create possibilities where they otherwise may not have been.
Ed?
Dom, there's been so much, angst about this whole situation over the last week. When we found out from the LHSAA that New Orleans has not even talked to the association, I know that's something that's going on in another parish, but did that surprise you? And I'm just thinking that maybe somebody in the city should have talked to the LHSAA about protocols and about what they were doing. I just think that that's a conversation that needed to happen. Is that fair?
Well, it definitely is fair to say I believe it should have happened. I don't necessarily want to comment about another jurisdiction's processes and protocols for their decision making. All I can say is that there have been numerous announcements that from other jurisdictions that have caught us off guard, and we'll have a conference call amongst the Jefferson Parish officials at 11 o'clock about what is expected for the remainder of the day. And an hour or so later, we find out that the Orleans mayor has done something that not anyone had any foreshadowing or any notice was going to happen. So could the communication improve? Absolutely, unequivocally. And that's part of the issue too, Ed, is when we talk regionalism, it can't be regionalism as long as y'all do everything we do. That's not the way it's supposed to work. There's supposed to be open collaboration and communication across city lines, across jurisdictional lines, to come up with a global solution or decision that is in the best interest of the community as a whole. And the thought that there might not have been that open line of communication, I can't speak to it, but also I'm not sitting here in awe or shock either.
Two other items before I'll let you get away, and if Ed wants to add one thing, that's fine. With regard to outside of prep sports, with regard to Jefferson Parish, it's premature to even entertain talking about canceling Mardi Gras, and yet that's been talked about in the other jurisdiction at this point. Would Jefferson Parish, if Mardi Gras could occur in any way, be open to accommodating any parades that would prefer to roll rather than not parade if they're not allowed to do so in Orleans?
If you're asking for my comment and my personal opinion as one of the 7 votes on the council, I can say I wholeheartedly would be open to that opportunity. My main comment, though, and this is the biggest takeaway that I have had from this overall COVID pandemic, is to even be prognosticating about something that's 4 to 6 months away from now, I think is a little bit short-sighted. And, you know, we have moving targets. I mean, think about how our society and our community looked 5, 6 months ago. Quite different. So I would say to even come to a conclusion today, as opposed to when that comes closer, I just think isn't the full appropriate analytical approach at all that we should be taking. I think we should be open-minded on both sides of it, certainly until such time. I mean, listen, if who knows when a vaccine comes out? Who knows if there's another outbreak? I mean, listen, if there's a massive outbreak between now and then obviously the decision to not have Mardi Gras makes a lot more sense. But if this thing is under control by then, and the community has the kinds of assurances that it would be looking for, well, then why wouldn't we not be open to that? And I definitely believe that's probably the next conversation that's going to take place. I don't want to speak for my colleagues. I don't want to speak for the parish president. But I can tell you from my perspective, I could easily foresee a resolution that looks, tastes, and feels very similar to the one I filed on sports. I mean, again, provided the conditions are appropriate, and it's probably just something that we've got to study more. We've got to look into more before making a conclusion and jumping to the gun. That's my thoughts.
And then Ed and I are both passionate about baseball. You're talking about baseball with your own child today, and passionate about trying to get professional baseball back to Metairie with the departure of our team to Wichita. And, of course, that's 72 home dates, not to mention the Pontiff Classic. And now, as you know, with the split in high school baseball, we could absolutely attract state championship games on the select side to Metairie as well. So Ed and I are both highly supportive of and involved in trying to get minor league baseball back to Metairie because of the job situation, because of the dates, because of the economy, because of the family entertainment. And we're working on that, and we're hopeful that I would imagine you're supportive of that and that the council would be supportive of that effort as well.
Yeah, I mean, as you know, Ken, and we've talked about, I'm 100% supportive of that effort. Councilman Dino Bonanno, I feel comfortable speaking for him on it, that he's 100% supportive of it as well. And as I said earlier, he represents the area in which Zephyr Field is located. The challenge, of course, is, and this is why we can't take any of these issues in a vacuum, because when we get back to the overall problem, which is getting businesses back open, getting people back to work, what is that facility going to need to operate minor league baseball? You know better than anybody, Kenny. It needs money. It needs renovations. It needs an overhaul. Well, we need businesses open. We need people working so that the revenue stream in terms of tax dollars can come from the state and local government to fund those kinds of renovations. As we know, a lot of people don't know, but I became intimately aware of this when I got into government, is stadiums and big facilities like this are not funded at the private level. It's government dollars that, fund the Superdome, fund Zephyr Field and things like that to make sure they're top-notch facilities. Well, we've got to get our tax base back to work to be able to have the opportunity to do the necessary improvements to a facility like that to make it marketable. At least that's how I feel.
Well stated. Ed, final thought, question?
Dom, businesses, you run a business, businesses hire people, and everyone benefits from people working. Is there anything that you see on the horizon on the state or local level to help businesses in Louisiana who have been dramatically impacted by this situation?
My personal opinion and my political philosophy is I don't believe we can throw money at the problem. I don't believe continued stimulus checks. I don't believe that increased unemployment payments are the solution. I believe the closest thing to a solution is get the businesses back open and let them do their thing. Let them do what they do best. You know, our individual businesses, they know how to run their businesses. You guys know how to run radio stations and media and TV stations. Y'all know how to do that. I know how to practice law and think about as good as anybody. Let us do our business. Let us do what we know how to do and how to earn a living. And I think many of the solutions will reveal themselves on their own. That's how I feel. So to me, it's phase 4 or it's phase 5 or phase 100. It's continuing to move this train down the line and getting businesses back to where they were on March 1st of this year. That, I believe, is the solution and the horizon that we need to get back, to get things where they are.
Jefferson Parish Councilman at Large Dominick Impastato. Dominick, listen, thank you for the time, for some words of wisdom, for reaching out, trying to help in any way imaginable, and enjoy baseball, the softball, and everything, and enjoy the day, and blessings to you and your family. You hear?
Thank you guys for taking the time with me and for everything you guys do to advocate for something. I can make one last comment. I am the man that I am today very much because of the experiences that I had on a ball field at my alma mater with the coaches and the teachers who had an influence on me. And I don't want anything to get lost in translation that we're just talking about a ball game. In my mind, we're talking about life and life lessons and what young men and women in the community can do to make themselves better people and successful people. That's the message. That's the takeaway. And thank you guys for advocating for that premise. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Dom. Appreciate it.
All right, Dom.
It's Dominick Impastato.